All right, everyone. Welcome to another episode on the Disrupted podcast by the Mateo Franco, DC. And our channel, the purpose of that, if you guys don't know or are new to our channel, is healthy, happy lifestyle. I'm excited for today's guest. We have Chasity Given. She has changed my life very drastically. She joined our team at Life Without Fear Chiropractic in a very intense season, we'll call it that. And she's helped us a ton, built confidence in me and what we're doing, and we're reaching more people because of her. And she's also helped a lot of our patients. She specializes in women's health. We're going to dive into that here in just a moment, but I'm going to go ahead and let Chasity tell you just a little bit about who she is, a little bit of her background, and then we're going to transition into some topics on health. But I'll go ahead and let you have the stage.
Yeah, thank you for having me. So I'm a personal trainer, and also with some, ebbs and flow of all the things that women have to deal with as we approach 40 and after. I decided to also get my certification in functional nutrition counseling. So then how that leads into me meeting Dr. Mateo is I never realized, the approach of the nervous system as well for women's health. So that has built a great, strong relationship with us as we look at a proactive approach to healthcare for women.
Yes, that was one of the coolest things of even from your interview. We did like a one-way interview system, and then just hearing her talk about her passion and her views on health was one of the things that made us a good partnership. But tell us a little bit about how you kind of got into that. So I'm sure one of the things that we're doing a series are you the warning or example of health in your family? And right. I'm sure some of the things that you do now are probably different than when you're maybe in your 20s, teens, things like that. Talk us a little bit about kind of like your health journey, how you got to where you are today.
Yeah. So, it really happened when I, went to my GYN for my annual physical, right? And I had gained a lot of belly fat, and had some lab work done and took it to her. And I'm like, thinking that she's going to give me all the answers and I'm going to walk out of there and she's going to tell me exactly what I need to do to change that. Right. And so I handed her my lab work and she just kind of looked at it and she handed it back and she was like, "Welcome to midlife." Well, I just started crying and I'm like, that's not acceptable. That's not what you're supposed to tell me. You're a doctor. Like, you're supposed to have all the answers. Well, you know what? She didn't. So that sent me down the path of all the research, figuring out how, I have to be a voice for women who felt the same as I did. And I never heard of anything, really that we should cycle sync as women. They're, at 13, 14 years old, they're putting us on birth control. If you have a cramp, they're going to put you on birth control. Well, we're not taught that, you really need to know that your healthy hormones are something that you need to function as a woman, right? So it's all about them putting you on birth control and anti-anxiety medications. They don't tell you that it'll ruin your gut or your liver. So I took a deep dive into it and I've been, so blessed to help so many women, even teach my daughters the importance of your menstrual cycle, right? And not have them on birth control because it's just unbelievable, the side effects that can cause.
Yeah, it's alarming. That's one of the things that you've brought a lot of awareness to me is all the things that, and I know the target for negative health, if you will say, is always the women, right? They know the target, the women and the kids for any marketing, right? Because that's who really does care about their health.
Right.
And I think it's cool that you had the awareness for that. And I'll just give a little side note that none of us doctors know everything about the body. So if anyone tells you that, that's a strong red flag of get out of there. Right? I always say we're 37.2 trillion cells. For us to say that we know everything, we can share our experiences, what results that we've seen with different things. Those are typically the best doctors, in my opinion. And the thing that I love about you and you're like the ideal patient for us too. And like just the people we want to work with, not just even from a patient standpoint, but I know we have a partnership, but it is people that like the tattoo I have, research your own experience. We're the science either way. The studies of the medications, whether they're actually happening or not, they're not us, right? We all respond to gluten a little bit different and those things. There's some common pillars in there.
Right. Absolutely. And one of the one of the biggest things we've seen too is, there's a big increase in young girls that, and they're your patients that have PCOS. And that's been an onset, from the years of the birth control, which, that's a whole other topic too. But
basically, if you don't like your experience of birth control, definitely we're going to leave her contact information as well. But that's the route that we go to. There's other ways, and it's important to find people that are actually informing you. And so just a pro tip on information as a whole, and I'm sure that you'll agree with this too, Chasity, is for me, we have our beliefs in what we feel is right. Is I always like to look at both sides, get contrasting sides. That way I know, and then I go with the one that aligns with me, which I align more towards natural.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about some of the things. I know PCOS, some of the other things that you see just with birth control as a whole.
Oh, yeah. And something that, that's not taught either is, the effect that it can have on your liver function. So we're also seeing these young girls that have sluggish liver. So no one thinks about the liver as an important organ until, there's a family history, but it is because hormones are metabolized in your liver. Your sex hormones are, cholesterol is made in your liver, but no one talks about that. It's kind of hush hush. I don't know. People just don't know it, but, getting the liver optimal, the liver is your fat burning organ. It's the only organ in our body that you can cut in half and it grows itself back. So, we really make the simple things completely complicated. And it doesn't have to be that way, when we don't, with the food industry and stuff, food is healing, it's medicine. You and I talk about that all the time, and we're on the same page with that. And if we could get the education out there for these young females to realize, we can support your hormones via nutrition, right? Like, you don't have to live on Teddy Grahams and Cheez-Its, right? Like, because you are not going to feel good if you do that. So the birth control just kill liver and gut, and they work hand in hand. They communicate, right? I mean, and with our brain, right? So when you are on birth control, it shuts down the ability of your natural hormone communication. So
I want to come back to how, because I know most women hearing this right now are wondering how they can actually heal that. We'll come back to that in a second, so don't let me forget that. The gut and the organs and those things, and the food too. And I think that's the interesting thing in today's world. There's so much information out there. It's hard. It's almost, you just don't know what to believe or what's accurate or not. And it's getting it down, which is really what I specialize in communication, is getting it down to things that are simple. And then also I love just referring to people that I trust that are going to do good by them. But another thing that you're hitting, the biggest thing that I heard you hitting on that too, and I know from the females that I talk to, one of the biggest things too is how frustrating of a life that would be if you settled on the solution that this is what the doctor said to you, which this is welcome to midlife. And I can only imagine of what that would feel like to think that this is how I'm going to look, feel, or function the rest of my life. Is that something that you see a lot with women that start to work with you?
And then they'll say, well, why weren't we told this? Like, because we trust our medical system to get us through every bodily like we do. Like, we listen to our doctors, right? I mean, we really do. And, but they are taught such a sick care model where, they're not taught. They're taught to write a pill for it. It's not their fault. It's just what the system, it's just the way the system is.
Yeah. That's what we always say, right? There's good people in the system.
Yeah,
good people. The system is so broken. And my background prior to becoming a chiropractor was pre-med. And for me, Riley Hospital and stuff, I was like, it doesn't make sense that no matter what the patient comes in with, it's drugs, injection, or surgery. And the fact that we're seeing more kids getting sicker, we're building more hospitals. I was like, how does this model make sense? And that's when I 180'd out into natural, if you will call it, chiropractic, working with the body versus drugs, pills, injections, or surgery, which is great for emergencies.
Right. And there's a time and place for it. Absolutely, there is. But the goal should be to avoid those. Let's avoid that, right? The human body is made to live to be 120 years old. That's my goal.
That's right. A sexy 120.
That's right. Absolutely.
And when we hear the word sick care model. I want to kind of highlight that for the listeners too, is that is a reactive care model. We had a lady that came in she didn't end up starting care, but she has numbness down to her arms and fingers in her 30s, right? And she's like, she bought a new pillow and the symptoms went away. And I'm like, that's what concerns me though, is we're looking at your x-ray, you have a negative reverse curve. I've seen hundreds of thousands of x-rays. This is only going to get worse. So symptoms are always the last thing that show up, the first thing that leave. There's a lot of regenerative things. Like you could probably get, maybe correct me if I'm wrong here. You could get the hormones functioning better, probably quicker before you regenerate the entire liver or Absolutely. The organs.
Absolutely. Yep.
And so I think that's an important note of people looking at health is reactive care is waiting till basing it off how you feel, which for us as nervous system specialists, it's 15% of the nerves that control everything are based off what you feel. The other 85% is function.
Right. And that's just like, when girls start their menstrual cycle, we're not supposed to cramp, but we're told cramping is normal and acceptable. But what that is, that's a symptom, right? So what that usually means is that they're low in progesterone. And so we really need a baseline blood level on girls right when they start their menstrual cycle. That way that should be followed up every year. So they know when everything's starting to tank and if there's a problem, the mood swings, mood swings shouldn't even happen. They tell us that, and then we should have cravings, right? But that's what the doctors say. Like, it's okay to, eat a bag of chips or 5 Snickers, Right?
Here's a bag of chocolates on the way out.
But that's what they are taught. So they pass that along to the consumer, right? So we think that that's absolutely normal and acceptable. And it's the complete opposite. Like a cramp is a symptom. So they're, back to that, we gotta nail down root cause. Like, this is why it's happening. Your progesterone's low. And it's a simple fix. So then you increase your veggie intake. It's so easy. Yeah.
What I love about what you say too, and that's why we get along so well, is it's a functional check. A blood panel is a functional check. So that's always the question that, like, I'm sure you ask people this too, is what functional checks? You can tell me how you feel. I can tell you what I think, but it doesn't really matter until we look at the functional or the objective data, which for us is an x-ray.
Yep. Right.
So you're saying, so I didn't even know this. Obviously, I'm an infant when it comes to women's health.
Oh, sure.
I shouldn't say women's health, on this specific topic. And that's why I love learning this stuff and understanding. And I think it's all fascinating. Just to plug the Mayan calendar, lunar cycles, women's cycles. It's so fascinating of how certain things line up. But so you're saying, so when people start their menstrual cycles, the cramping is a symptom. So they could get a blood panel test like close to that age, or when they start their first cycle?
When they start their first cycle, they really should. And it all depends, hormones are also, they ebb and flow through the month. So it's not like a light switch. And I'm talking about the 3 sex hormones, testosterone, estrogen, and progesterone. So they ebb and flow through the month. So it makes a difference as well when the blood panel is taken, because of the peaks and valleys of the hormones. So a lot of people will go in and the doctors have no clue where they are in their cycle. So at the end of your cycle, progesterone should be up, just for example. But when you're ovulating, estrogen and testosterone are peaked. But and I've seen this, I have to overread this all the time because I will see them get their blood panel done. And I'm like, where are you at in your cycle? And they were like, well, the doctor said it was normal. I'm like, no, if your testosterone is tanked at day 14, we have a problem. Because that's, and that's what we see with PCOS. We see that a lot because of the way the ebb and flow is. And it makes a huge difference. So if we had a baseline, then we could help the younger generation and prevent insulin resistance too. Like that's a problem too. We see a lot of these younger girls that are thicker, right? I mean, my oldest was one of them. But, insulin resistance can happen at 2 times in a woman's life: at onset of menstrual cycle and after childbirth. This is why women have a hard time losing weight when they start their period and after they give birth. So it all just kind of goes hand in hand. And the ebb and flow of the hormones is a huge indicator. Like, we need to know that as a foundational, basis of what their levels should look like.
Right.
It's just like having a blood pressure, right? Like this is what, some people have higher blood pressure and some people have lower, like that's their baseline. So we need a baseline for that as well.
Right. And it's doing it for yourself. That's the thing that it's customized. That's the thing is we've seen them change the blood pressure range.
Yeah.
And I'm laughing because we're talking about when to take the blood panel. It's very similar to blood pressure. That's a great example. I remember them taking my dad's blood pressure and they're trying to put him on cholesterol medication and high blood pressure because they said his blood pressure was through the roof. And I'm like, well, Dad, let me ask you a question. Do you have any coffee that day?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I had 5 cups. Well, you probably had the blood pressure of a hummingbird. Like,
right. Yeah,
like
absolutely.
it's the multiple data points. So just to make sure I heard that correctly. So they take it during their menstrual cycle is when the blood panel should be taken.
On day 3 is the best, meaning that for day 1 is day 1 of bleed. So day 3 after a bleed. So that would be 3 days in, or day 21 of your cycle. Those are the best times to have it. That just gives us because we know exactly where the levels should be at that point.
Gotcha. For the men listening too, one of the things that I'm going to do, just a quick plug, is if you're hearing this, where you said the mood swings shouldn't be a normal thing, is most men are very stubborn when it comes to their health, is helping your woman get their health right. And I think it's such a beautiful thing too, because of women obviously being able to create life, kids, but women also are typically, doesn't make this true, but they're also the ones that are cooking, doing some of those things the most, or even if it's not the cooking, the grocery shopping.
Yeah.
So being informed on that stuff too, and getting that regulated even for her is definitely going to help everyone in our family and us. And that's why the first person that I target in our family when I have health things is my mom, because she cooks for all of us.
Yeah.
Like
right.
She does those things, and she's cooking for grandbabies now. So yeah, that's super awesome. So tell us a little bit about some of the services, solutions that you offer. Obviously, you're very knowledgeable on that. And I'm going to leave a link below. But you can go ahead and before we go to the services, let people know the best place to know where to find you. I'll attach links below and stuff too.
On Instagram, it's Chaser. What is my link? I have to double check it. Do you know what it is?
I always say everyone needs a little chazzle dazzle in their life.
It's chaser.g.fitness. Yeah. So that's my main platform. But there's also a stand store link there for services that I offer there. My bread and butter is cycle syncing, teaching women how to do that. Go ahead.
And are you a Flex partner now?
I am.
We'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
You're looking for good shoes. We got her.
We love our Flex. Yeah, we love our Flex. That's a whole other podcast.
We'll come back to that at the end. Okay, go ahead. I interrupted you.
But yeah, my bread and butter is teaching women to cycle sync, but I also love working with the youth too, right? So we can get a head start of that. And PCOS, helping girls with that because they're getting the wrong information from their endocrinologist. It's so awful. And then menopausal women. So that's another specialty that I offer too. I have a guide to teach menopausal women, the right workouts, because that makes a difference, the right fasting cycles, and food cycling, carb cycling. So so those are my 3 favorite things to do. I have lots.
So do the 3 one more time for us. Just give us the quick bullets now.
So PCOS, cycle syncing, and menopausal health. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know it's helped your family a lot too. And I know we're working to make more connections for you, for the women that we have coming in. But I think it's vitally important. So would you say too, and it's probably a rhetorical question, but is for the younger that you're able to work with the women when it comes to cycle health, does it make it easier when they get to like the menopausal stage?
I hope so. That's my goal. That's absolutely my goal. Is to reach the younger generation too, because I hope in 10 years that when there's someone trying to get pregnant and they've had PCOS, that they don't have to get on hormones enabled, to have a child, because you see it. I'm sure you have friends that have had PCOS that have had to, be put on hormone therapy in order to get pregnant. We want to avoid that, right? We want to avoid that, reverse the PCOS, because it's so mentally exhausting for these women, these families, as they try to get pregnant. And so I'm hoping, right, that that's one thing that I can really help the women reverse and not go through that process.
I definitely think just hearing that you can definitely increase your chances of having better results through those. Because clearly doing what we're doing, the model that we're currently in for the most population out there is not effective.
Right.
And that's
for example, I had a client who is a good friend of mine, and she was trying to get pregnant, and she had it was more symptomatic PCOS. It wasn't necessarily showing up on her blood work. Right. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, let's just do, everybody's going to be different. So we just did a couple things, but the main hormone that we looked at was insulin spikes, right? Because her A1C was a little high. And I'm like, well, let's just do this. I've recommended a supplement. She'd been trying to get pregnant for a whole year. So 3 months on the supplement, just being aware of hormone fluctuation, she got pregnant. So, and that feels great, right? That feels great.
Yeah.
It's just because we didn't overthink it, right? We did not overthink it. We just said, let's, adjust a couple of things here. And then now she's pregnant with her second child. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's what Einstein said, right? Most solutions are simple.
Yeah, they are. That's why we think we just make the easy things so complicated.
Oh, I don't have to get up, meditate, exercise for 7 hours, drink water from a glacier. Like, it's like those things are important. Yes.
Yeah.
It's like, it's crazy that how many things we think we have to do to be healthy, when if we can just get really good at the fundamentals then after that, then it's just edging to get peak performance or an edge in areas versus most people, I feel like, just cycle and switch and try different things and say it doesn't work.
It's like all about 80. Let's just 80-20, right? Like consistency and 80-20. It's not that hard. It's not that hard.
It needs to be a new website. It's not that hard.com. That could go a couple different ways, but
I was going to say that may, we may go viral with that.
Yeah. But that's like it's the same thing. That's what I love about like the spine. And I'm very, and that's the point of having Chasity on here and getting some other females on here is I want to help both, but I know I naturally drift towards just helping the males in that I can facilitate health for females, but I want to have someone like Chasity. And that's where we refer almost all of our women's health stuff beyond the chiropractic and what we execute on that's why we have her. And I think
also on the flip side of that, where you've been treating me, like I still was cramping a little bit, right? But still doing all the right things. But then once we started my adjustments, I haven't cramped in 6-7 months. Like it's crazy. Like, but I didn't know that. Like I didn't even know how the nervous system, I didn't know how that affected, the female organs. I had no clue.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been huge for me. You have no idea. Like it's huge.
And we appreciate that. And that's why at the beginning of the podcast, I'm like, you've built so much confidence in me because I do relatively the same things every day.
Right.
When it comes to that, which is like adjusting a bone isn't like when you've done it for the 100,000th time or the millionth time, it's not like, but seeing the results and how it impacts people and the premise of that if you just take interference out of the system that controls everything, to me, that's very fundamental.
Absolutely it is. Yeah.
And then going to the next step, which for me is always, I'd say that step 1A, like mindset's a big one. Beliefs are huge prior to that. I think because the people that usually, and I'm sure it works the same way for you, the people that usually get the best results are the people, that they believe they can get the results and also are the most committed to following the plan.
Yep. Yeah.
And then, but yeah, and I know that's like it is exciting when you see people get those results. But yeah, I think it's super, super awesome what you're doing, how you help people and I think a lot of what you're saying is also applicable on the male side. Yeah. Because I see a lot of males that are burnt out, so to speak. We're all burnt out in our own world. We don't have to be, right? We're always say busy is an ego word. It's being productive. But a lot of things comes back to, I guess this is the question I'm going to direct towards next, but it does come back to the things that we put in our body. Like we always say, if you eat McDonald's every day, don't expect a organic body. Like you're going to have a McDonald's body.
Yeah.
How much in what you do? Because I know we talked about the nutrition. how much in what you do would you say, how important of a role is exercise?
It's crucial. Movement is absolutely crucial, and there's a lot of people who don't like strength training, but you have to think your muscle isn't one of the biggest organs as well for longevity, for, skeletal health. Like we have to strength train. We have to.
And I'd say the benefit, even beyond that, is the mental,
yes,
the mental health of it is the reason. I mean, don't get me wrong, I like to exercise and stuff, but really the top reason why I love exercise is the mental aspect of it.
absolutely. Yeah. It's huge for me. Like, I mean, and I wish everybody felt that way, right? I wish, people would stop doing so much cardio and running all the time. It's great for endurance. It's great for heart health, but it doesn't build skeletal muscle mass. In fact, it can do the opposite. So there has to be a happy medium. And, especially women need to understand that as we lose our sex hormones as we age, how important it is to keep your testosterone up to build the muscle mass for longevity. And you have to think it's great for heart health. Like we need our sex hormones. Like your heart is a muscle. Testosterone builds muscle. Like this is why heart disease is the number one cause of death for women, because our hormones decline, but there's no education on how do we keep that up. So, and that's a whole other topic, right?
Yeah. So don't worry, y'all. We're going to have Chasity. Our goal is to do this next week, but we're also going to start doing it then after that, at least twice per month is our goal. Yeah, and with the exercise too, there's a law. I always remind patients of this because even as we age, right, this is people, there used to be the thing, which is absolutely effing crazy to me, that they said, don't do weight training for people with bone problems. I'm like, have you ever heard of Wolff's Law? Your bones form in the way that you stress them. So if you're not loading them, and we're not talking like Olympic lifts, you can do what you want, right? Always have, for me, it's always x-rays, objective tests showing that if this is what I love, cool, I want to make sure I'm doing things too that also counter those structures from being degenerative if you're going to go to that level. But doing weight-bearing things, your body's designed to do those. And I agree with what you're saying too. I think there should be a balance of cardio with that. And then the other question that I always offer people too is at what cost? Yeah. Right? We have CrossFitters, and I'm not hating on CrossFit. I'm just saying, if you don't have an objective test showing that like your exercises are helping you regenerate, not even just your exercises, like that's nutrition, your mental health, like all those things. That's what an x-ray shows. It'll show you those spaces. And that's what I love about it. You can do the blood panel too. And having those things every year, seeing that your body is adapting and healing, I think is crucial. But I find it absolutely, like, even like there's a lady I was having a conversation with like yoga, and yoga is obviously phenomenal for mobility, but like with her aging 60s, 70s, it's like we've got to have some strength training in there. Like there's got to be strength training, or this condition for her osteoporosis, like it doesn't get better.
Doesn't get better. So you have to have that skeletal mass for bone density. Like you really have to have it. And then you think about the women also who have a decline. How many older women do you know that have hip replacements, that complain of joint pain, but that you never think, because it's the ebb and flow of your hormones. Like no one talks about how the decline, and they get little and they're brittle, as they age. Like let's prevent that from happening.
That's why, and maybe we'll wrap it up on this, but that's my least favorite thing. There's two of my least favorite things here. The word is hereditary, and the other word is age, right? They'll say degeneration is age. It's not age, because and you look at blood panels, I look at x-rays, we look at hundreds of thousands of these things, and not everyone's x-ray or blood panel at age 60 is the exact same. So age is not the cause. There's certain things, yes, things can become more challenging as we age. Sure, I'll agree to that. The other one's hereditary. That's my least favorite. Wisdom of Your Cells by Bruce.
That makes my head explode.
Yes. So if you know epigenetics, roughly 5% of our genes are outside of our control, meaning 95% are within our control. Diet, exercise, thoughts, those things. And that's what my contrast for people when they come in, and I always use the example of my famous uncle, right, that plays guitar professionally, right? Oh, it's hereditary. Does that mean that we only get the bad shit? Like what? Like I didn't get the guitar playing ability? Like how does that work? Like, where did we come up with this?
I know that when I do consults, and the first thing that my clients will say is, well, it's hereditary. And I'm like, I'm just getting ready to blow your mind. So, and then I just go on my tangent. So, and they're like, oh, it really isn't hereditary. I'm like, no, it's not.
It's crazy of how quickly we'll settle on certain things.
Yeah, that's right.
And I'll finish with this thought on this is our thought here too. And I'm sure you'll agree with this, and you can disagree if you want to, but my job is, we have our beliefs. I have my beliefs. My job, I always tell our patients too, is I'm not going to tell you what to do. My job is to present the information based on your health goals. It's your choice at the end of the day. I can't value it for you. I can't get on the treadmill and run for you. If it's something that you want, it's something that you value, then we're going to get started. We're going to get great results. But it comes back to people being able to value it and getting people to think. That's why looking at both sides of things and actually pausing for a second and looking at what results that we're getting. And this is a whole nother one. We'll have to add this one because I want to hear your thoughts on this too. I know we've talked about it. Was the health insurance. We're getting ready to create a video on that. And it's like one of the questions I ask people is they come in and we're out of health insurance as a whole now. We left for a slew of reasons, and you're seeing more doctors do it. Any health professional, you're seeing a lot of people doing it. And we'll create a whole separate video on that, and then we'll probably touch on it a little bit during the podcast. But my question I always ask people is, up until this point, has everything that you've tried, and there's another question I can ask with this, has everything that you've tried been, besides your deductible, everything that you've tried been covered by health insurance, aside from your deductible, has it been a co-insurance, copay, those things, aside from those, has it been covered by your health insurance? And if the answer is yes, then you're going to hear it again. That's what concerns me. What is the definition of doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different outcome?
Yeah.
How does health insurance make money? Why? It's paying attention to labels, right? If they actually got us all healthy, would they be able to collect money? No.
So
right? And the same thing because it's in acute care medical necessity, it's symptom-based treatment. And that's the other question I always ask people when they come in, is if we continue to do so far everything that you've tried, it sounds like they've been chasing your symptoms. Is that what I'm hearing? And their answer is typically yes. I said, so if we do the exact same thing, if I only adjust where it hurts, so we chase your symptoms, do you think that we'll get a different outcome? And it's no, right? I was like, could you imagine in a world where someone goes in with a heart attack and like, oh my God, we got to give this person a muscle relaxer for their shoulder pain, or we got to massage it. Like, we'd be like, that's crazy. That's insane. That's what we do with our health. And I'm like, we got to wake up.
Yeah, that's a whole other topic, right?
Yeah, we'll have a lot too. And she just got in the Flux footwear. We'll close with this. I know I keep saying this, but Flux footwear, let's do a little plug for them. So healthy shoe, one of the big things. I see it for the spines, specifically the low back, but also compresses those nerves that go to the reproductive organs. So tell us a little bit about why you partnered with Flux.
I mean, the absolute most comfortable shoes I've ever had on my feet. Absolutely. And, I'm a bunion girl, so they're generous on my bunion.
And they look good.
They look good. Yes, they do. They're amazing. Yeah.
And you get a 10% discount, correct?
Mm-hmm.
We'll leave that in the link below. You can use either of ours.
Yes.
But if you're going to work with Chasity, use hers, because I was like, I knew it's a perfect alignment with what you do. I was like, this is going to be, but also just helping people. It's something that's easy to do.
Oh, it's absolutely. Yeah. You have to have the whole
shoes, buy some new ones.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for being on today. We'll see you all next week. We'll record this and then we'll get it set up and we'll let you guys know the schedule as we get more of a frequent schedule of when these will be posted. But if you want to work with Chasity, click on the link below. She's happy to connect with you. If you also want to pair that, she'll also refers people to us too. So she knows how we help people. So we work hand in hand together, but appreciate you for being on. And then I will see you on the next episode.